what we're trying to do is find things that people can kind of do along with you, like the way that they did Sean's workshop with him. Corey's going to be walking people through his app. So I love the idea that somebody can kind of do a paint along demo sort of thing. So I guess the question would be, what would be something that would be just enough for you to share with people for them to get a sense of, wow, this guy Matt really explains things well. I'd like to take his other courses.
I could do a demo, like I could have them paint with me if they want to, you know what I mean? I could do like a 2-hour, because how long will I have to do it?
90 to 2 hours.
Oh, okay. So I can because I could paint pretty quick and I could do something simple. I don't know if you guys want something to be, like usually like when I take, like my private lessons with certain people, I have them start a certain way. So like I'll have them paint like a ball, a cube, and then I'll move on to like, I have this like pear that's like has like all these planes. So like I'll start with those like 3 different things, and I'll move on to like a rhino I have that has a bunch of planes. And then from those steps, after they take like 5 or 6 classes, then we start moving on to like painting other objects that are more like, say like a stormtrooper helmet or something that's a little bit more fun. So I could do like anything like that, you know what I mean? If somebody wants to paint like a pear that has like the planes and they could see how I start to finish it, I could paint it in about an hour and a half,
That's interesting. I mean, something that's very fundamental like that. And then if they choose, they could paint along with you, but it would just be this kind of like a way for them to see where they're at,
Yeah.
Depending on how well they're able to handle the exercise. And yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think something like that, I've noticed with like, it's weird because, tattooing, on people's skin, it's so permanent. And I've noticed that like, even like breaking it down simple to like value and just like explaining just value, like it even just helps them for that. And I'm like, well, it's crazy because a lot of tattooers, I think they think painting and tattooing are so different, but they're actually similar in a way, and they get confused with like they do value in tattooing, but in painting they're like, well, it's different, right? And I'm like, no, it's pretty much the same. So I try to break it down exactly how you would with tattooing, instead of, I think a lot of people get, they hear terms like glazing, they hear all these like technical terms that don't really matter in the beginning, because you have to learn the fundamentals of, just putting down color like you would a tattoo. Say if you're tattooing like a traditional rose or something, it's like black, red. It's like, and then you could break that down even more, like black, dark red, mid red, light red. Same thing with a painting. If you're painting something red, it's like you could break it down so simple, and that's kind of how I try to break it down like that,
Well, that's actually probably a great way to open the class, is to start out by saying something. And of course, I'll help introduce and get you rolling. But then you could start by saying, a lot of tattooers are under what I feel is a misconception that painting and tattooing are very different. And what I'd really like to talk about here is value, and how the use of value in both painting and tattooing are crucial for spelling out the structure and the visual strength of the image that you're creating. How whatever your words would be for that. And then you could move from there into this pair exercise, which would you be having people do it in black and white, or just choose a monochrome and really work with value? Or
I wonder, is there any way I could set up my palette where it's like on there, where you could see
oh
the
yeah,
palette and that?
yeah, Sean did that. He made sure that the camera showed both the palette and the painting,
Oh,
so
okay.
you
So
could
maybe
really see what he was doing.
because was he using the like the upright palette?
Yeah, the parallel palette.
Parallel palette. Yeah. So I could probably figure something out for my palette to where they could see how I'm doing the color and how I'm going for it from there. Because I feel like if I were to, because sometimes if I do the pair, I'll do the pair with like a red like floor, like a red material, so that way it has like a reflective light on the bottom of it, and that way I could kind of explain a little bit more of like the difference of like a reflective light and like a highlight. So sometimes people tend to get those two confused, and they
Right. Yes.
will say like, the reflective light is it's the same value as like the highlight or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And when they do that, they flatten things out
Exactly.
because the highlight needs to be stronger than the reflected light. Um, okay. So let's just say we were to start this out, just talking about value. Um, what I'm hoping we can do this time, which we did this with Sean, but this time around, I want to make sure that more announcements go out so people can be as prepared as possible ahead of time.
Okay.
So, like in Sean's case, one of the things that I don't think got explained adequately was for people to choose their reference and then go ahead and do the transfer onto their panel and have their panel ready to go.
Yeah.
Right. So like in your case, it's probably going to be different, but whatever your advanced prep would be, let's just make sure that we've got that spelled out for people, and we'll make posts about it. And then in the couple hours prior to your class, we will also make announcements about it to people who are actually tuned in, and say if you're planning on attending Matt Hurtado's class later, make sure that you take care of the preparations that you can find at this link here. And that way they'll have all their materials ready, and they'll be able to just, they won't have that moment of scrambling when you first start talking.
Cool. Yeah, I could do that. Would you want me to like make a list of like what you would want, like what they would need?
Yeah, I think so. Like a materials list, and then whatever kind of, like, if they're using a panel, if it should be primed ahead of time, like whatever you think would get them up to speed so that they can actually just sit and start painting when your demo starts.
Okay, cool. Some of the stuff I use, like say for my panels, I prep them with like modeling paste, and sometimes that takes like about a day to dry. So like I could tell them, if they want to use, a gesso panel, you can. The only thing that's going to be different, I don't know if you guys, if this is a problem, but like what I use, it kind of absorbs, it absorbs but doesn't on the panel. I don't know if you've ever used modeling paste before.
Not much.
So I don't want them to struggle as well. So I don't know if you guys want me to maybe a little bit more ahead of time so that way they could prep their panel like that and try to.
Okay, so the modeling paste, is that just to give the panel a little bit of texture?
So what it was used for was to recreate like a concrete wall. So like if like the old masters or whatever, they would use that. So that way it looked like it was on a concrete. Sometimes like you'll even see like on my brother's paintings, on the edges of the panel, it'll look like a concrete wall, like it was like piece of it were like knocked off or something. And that's how you get that. Each panel, it's pretty crazy because each one has its own like characteristic. Like you can never get one to look exactly the same because you do it with a drywall knife. So every time some parts will be exposed, some parts won't. You'll see some of the panel. It just depends. You can get it smooth and it has a little bit of a tooth, but something about it, it has like it absorbs, but it yet is still a little bit slick on there. It's kind of different.
Okay, well that's interesting because one of the reasons I don't paint on panels a lot is because every hair of your brushwork becomes so visible, and I've always kind of liked the fact that the canvas buffs those out a little bit, where I'm not trying to completely hide my brushwork, but I don't want it to overwhelm the image. You know what I mean? Where other artists, where the brushwork character is going to be, a more important part of the piece, they would want to make it smooth like that. But it sounds like what you're doing with the panel is to sort of find almost like an in-between spot where, it hides a little bit of that stuff, but it still is a surface that, is responsive. Like a panel is a lot more responsive.
Yeah, for sure.
Would you be able to record a 30-second video or whatever of you prepping a panel?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay. And then what we could do is just make a link with the description of the materials list and everything, and saying if you're able to prepare a panel, this is how I do it. Yeah. And if you can't, just have this kind of panel available. So basically, like it was saying, the people who are able to do the best case scenario, they'll have a demo video to see what you're talking about. Cool. And then the people that can't do that, they're still able to participate. Any thoughts on a name for the class?
It's tough. I would say something like Intro to Oil Painting for tattooers, because I think it's more like I could teach somebody who doesn't tattoo, you know what I mean, to paint. But I think more this is more geared towards tattooers. You know, most people who take my classes, they do tattoo already. So you know, I try to break it down for them like the same thing as like tattooing, where like you can make a stencil, and then you from your stencil you can make it as complicated as you want, you can make it as simple as you want, and then you go from there. And I try to do like a little bit more uh, direct painting, as in like where you know you make your decision and you go for it and you have confidence with it, instead of you know doing a decision here and then trying to change it. In a tattoo, you can't really do it as much. You can, but you kind of have your limits, you know.
Like when I plan a painting, I'm often planning it the same way that I would plan a tattoo. You know, for example, if there's going to be a light ray, you know, a transparent light ray in the foreground, I won't just wait until the end and add it as a glaze. I
Yeah,
will plot that in from the very beginning as if I were tattooing it.
sure.
And that way it's not this overlay at the end. Becomes more incorporated into the depths of the image.
For sure. Well, it's crazy because like you could like I usually start. It's funny because that's how like I'll tell people like if you're gonna start something, plan it all, have it ready. But once you're able to like learn that stuff, then you could really start uh as you get better at painting, then you could start glazing things in. Like say if you want a ray of light, how you're saying, and you want it to be see through, you can do that in a painting, but you can't do it in a tattoo because you won't get the same thing across. So that's why I always try to like have them, because they'll ask questions like that, like, well, why couldn't you just lay it on top? And I'm like, well, first learn how to do that first, and then later on you could really start bending and breaking the rules, and then doing that stuff in paintings and possibly in tattoos, but it doesn't work as good sometimes, you know. Value, shape, a little bit of form. Uh, it would pretty much be everything you could do start to finish in like a finished study, like from beginning to end. Like I'm showing you how to do a study within like 2 hours, you know. So you would be able to go on to do little studies for like say if you want to do like a study at night or something. So it'd be like value, color, form, drawing. I would think that's pretty much it, you know.
And then the idea, I guess, is to get people past whatever sort of nervousness they might have about trying a new medium, give them a really solid foundation to start with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like the biggest thing I've seen too is that like most tattooers are scared of the paint, which is crazy to me because I'm like, you guys tattoo. Like, there's nothing more scarier than that, you know. It's just a little bit. It gets you comfortable, and I think that like this transition from tattooing to painting, and also like I've seen that tattooing has helped my painting, and painting has helped my tattooing. So I think it's the parallels there, and how you could work back and forth, and it could even better your tattooing from painting.
Great, great. So my final question would be: do you have a place at your website or anywhere like in your Instagram profile where there's a link where people can easily find your other classes and private lessons and things like that? If somebody wanted to take private classes remotely, are you able to do that?
I think I'd be able to. Yeah. The best way to find out about my classes, private lessons, workshops I'm doing, you can check my Instagram at Matt Hurtado.
Beautiful. Well, I'm super psyched that you can be involved in this. And, your brother said really, positive things about your classes and the way that you break it down for people. And I think that's exactly what we need.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Well,
Cool.
we'll be talking more soon.
Okay, cool. Thank you guys. Have a good day.
You too.